Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob, and today we'll be jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from The Breakup 2013. Short me $70,000 in violation of our written agreement. It'll cost you $1.8 million. Let's jump right in. Disclaimer: the names and some of the situations have been changed to protect the identities, but the dollars and general nature of the situation is completely true. Background: a year out of school in the early 1990s, I procured a job as a business analyst for a large, family-owned tech company. This business was located in the booming heart of technology at the time and was very profitable. As tech took off over the next decade, the company thrived and remained family-owned. What was a rich family and company became exceedingly wealthy, with a valuation and net worth in the high 9, low 10 figures. The family that owned it was quite neurotic, very moody, and had a reputation as very ruthless, greedy when it came to financing, deal-making, employees, etc. I truly believe this is what held them back from ultimately becoming a household name as a company. As I progressed in the company, I gained more and more face time with the owners. I worked on some projects directly with ownership that really paid off and gained me even greater access to their inner circle. Now, like a lot of people at the time, and particularly those who worked in tech, I was heavily invested in tech stocks. I discussed some of my investments and gains with ownership as casual conversation, though investing had nothing to do with my role in the company. That is until one day in late 1999, when the owner came to me and asked if I would invest some of his personal money. He wanted me to take big risks to see if they would pay off, using $1 million of his personal money. I was a bit hesitant, but still being in my late 20s and wanting to prove myself, I said I would. I asked for a written agreement where they acknowledged this wasn't my role in the company, was a personal matter between the owner and me, and to document my compensation for this side arrangement, 20% of all profits. Around this same time, and by working in the industry, I started to notice the weakness associated with a lot of tech companies. They just weren't living up to their hype and stock price, and some seemed like they were starting to run out of money. I had no inside information, just a strong sense of what companies were struggling based on my work in the business. Based on this sense, I started using both my money and the owner's money to short tech companies just after the new year in 2000. For anyone unfamiliar with shorting, it means if the value of a stock decreases, the value of the investment increases. I had a few long positions, but my overall position was very short. Since the owner wanted big risk and big reward, I used his money and obtained leverage or margin from the financial institution where I maintained both his and my trading accounts. The accounts were separate, but both under my name. Again, I documented this and gained consent. Well, both my accounts and his suffered some moderate losses in the first 2 months of 2000, before the bubble began to burst, and both accounts, but his in particular, began to skyrocket. Ownership's pettiness. In June, the company began to suffer a downturn. We were still profitable, but since we provided tech services and products, we were not immune to weakness in the broader market. I had not informed the owner of my short strategy. He came to me one day and asked how his money was doing, saying he suspected it was way down like the general market. To his surprise, I informed him that while we still had some money tied up in options, puts, and shorts, but based on the positions I had closed, there was $1.35 million in cash sitting in the account that belonged to him. Again, I still had a bunch of open positions which, if memory serves, were worth about $1 million on that date, but the positions I had closed had yielded $1.35 million in cash, just sitting in his account, which was in my name. The owner, either through ignorance or lack of attention, said, "Great, $1.35 million. Fantastic work in this down market. Will you please wire it to me?" I responded that I would, but would be taking my 20% of the $350,000 profit, or $70,000, before wiring him the $280,000. I also reminded him I still had open positions that had yet to pay off or close, but I didn't state the amount. He once again appeared to not understand or comprehend the open position statement, but instead totally focused on and became incensed about my rightful claim for $70,000. He went on and on about how times were tough, I should be grateful for a job, particularly at my young age, and the entire $350,000 was necessary for him and the company. I knew this wasn't true based on my position within the company. Worse, this was my first time personally experiencing the greedy and corrupt nature that served as the basis for ownership's reputation. The revenge. Now comes the revenge. Since after 2 separate conversations, the owner didn't seem to grasp that the open positions would yield at least some income and thus additional profit, I decided not to mention it again. I sent him back the entire $1.35 million and continued to manage the open positions to the best of my ability. And here's the kicker. The owner never brought it up again. He seemed to think the $1.35 million payment was the entire value of the account and never understood or remembered that open positions still existed. He never asked for records, tax documents, or any kind of audit or financials. Given the fact that he was dishonest with me, I didn't feel the need to disabuse him of that notion. Ultimately, after a bit more net gain, I covered all of the shorts and exercised all of the options, puts in this case, for an additional $1.8 million. I worked for the company for 3 more years, and owner never asked about it during my tenure, after I gave notice, or since. I know it's a bit crass and even shady AF, but given his dishonesty with me over the $70,000, I felt justified in keeping the additional $1.8 million. I paid taxes on the gain, long-term capital gain, and went on my way with a fantastic nest egg. Nobody has asked about it since, and I have only told the story to a few people, and even then only after the statute of limitations passed. The final ironic cherry on top of this sundae is that during my remaining 3 years, I gained greater influence with the ownership in position within the company because they considered me loyal for giving the $1.35 million back and not making too much of a stink about the $70,000 profit. Little did they know, I got the better of them. The company eventually folded due to family disputes, but my understanding is that the ownership walked away in a very good financial position. They likely could have been a much better and greater company had they not practiced the same dishonesty that they showed me with their vendors, clients, and employees. Thanks for reading and hope you enjoyed. Oh wow, reading the comments on this one, you'd think this was posted in r/legal advice and not in malicious compliance. My gosh. There's a lot of people that think that OP shouldn't be posting their story because of the legal implications. However, OP comes back with that it's past the statute of limitations and they have absolutely no worries about it. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from Danny DeJong. Tell me I'm wrong about how to dilute a chemical? Go ahead and do it over and over and over again. Let's jump right in. Had my first day of physical college classes today, and we can only come back for practical classes for my science subjects, so no lectures. I've never seen my classmates, only shared online classes with them previously, and only know their names, but not what they look like. So today was the first time seeing them, and the teacher split us into groups of 5 to do some preparation for a simple experiment, chemistry. So what we were doing first was having a chemical with a known concentration, and we had to dilute it to 4 different concentrations, and we needed 250 milliliter volumes of them. So pretty much like a cordial drink, if you want it stronger, you put more cordial into the water. So for this, you had to calculate how much chemical you needed, and you put it into a volumetric flask, which has a fixed and very accurate set volume, 250 milliliters in this case, and a thin neck at the top, so you can't really make a mistake by overfilling it. That's what we're supposed to do. And anyone who's ever been to a lab and done the tiniest bit of chemistry in there would know it's the obvious thing to do. However, what my group was doing was putting the chemical into a conical flask, that stereotypical looking flask in a lab with a very thick neck and approximate values for volume. With a thick neck, you can remove 5 ml or add 5 ml, and it'll look like it still meets the volume marking on the flask. After adding the chemical into the conical flask, they diluted with water to the 250 ml marking and then putting it into the volumetric flask. By doing this, the difference in volume will keep making you miss the mark in volumetric flask. The teacher was crap and the drawing she made on the board looked like a conical flask, so I can't blame them. But I've done this before many times and assume they have as well, but I guess not. So I explained the above to them and told them why it was wrong, and I was met with the faces of 2 members looking at me as if I had just told them the moon is really made out of cheese. I am very shy in real life and wouldn't talk if I don't have to, and after telling them why it was wrong, one of the 2 members that were listening just said, "No, that's not what the teacher said, and she will just tell you to do it this way." Fair enough, go ahead. Then the second member pointed at the uncertainty on the volumetric flask, 250 mils plus or minus 0.15 mils, and said, "See, this is not accurate," and then proceeded to point at the one on the conical flask and stuttered as he read 250 mil approximate value as if he read something in another language, and still continued about the preparation. They did it 2 more times, overfilling the volumetric flask, and they knew something was wrong. I had nothing else to explain why it was wrong, so I just asked if they were sure they didn't want to just ask the teacher. And this girl just turned around and said, in the most condescending way, "Oh my god, can someone just please explain to him?" And the other guy tells me they're fine, and to maybe help the other members. So I just shut up and let them do their thing, over and over and over and over again, and decided I'd go help the other 2 members with another part of preparation while watching the first 2 members. They did the same thing 8 times, measuring the volume of a chemical in a measuring cylinder, going drop by drop at the end with a dropper to, be as accurate as possible, and then pouring that into a conical flask, filling it with water, swishing it around, pouring it into the volumetric flask, saying, "Aw man," and then repeating another 5 times before going to the teacher in another room helping other students. Not sure what they asked, but like 10 seconds later, I hear the teacher shouting "No!" from that room. She comes out of there and sees what should be just 4 volumetric flasks. After what would take 15 minutes max, were now 10 volumetric flasks on the table, filled with varying intensities of blue liquid, after over an hour of class, and she says, "What the hell have you guys been doing this whole time?" I'll again give them the benefit of the doubt, since we haven't had a physical class in over 6 months, and that the high school where you learn how to do these things was even longer before that. They were standing around the table, and the teacher pretty much explains what I said and asked where the hell they even got the idea to use a conical flask from, while I stood across from them with a beaming smile under my mask. Ha 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 ha. If something doesn't work the first 9 times that you try it, it's gotta work on the 10th time, right? Right? Come on. Our last story today comes to us from Nate Golan. Give me a hard time when I'm serving you and your friends? Okay, let's jump right in. Years ago, I worked at a busy corporate sit-down burger restaurant. One day, I'm hustling through the lunch rush, and I have 6 college guys sit down. One guy flags me over and loudly pronounces that they're ready to order right away. "What are you guys having?" I ask. "Guys," the same guy says with a smirk on his face. "Guys, that doesn't sound very professional greeting to me. I worked at a restaurant too, and if I walked up to a table and said, 'What are you guys having?' my manager would definitely let me know that this was inappropriate." The other guys at the table look kind of uncomfortable at this exchange and just silently sit there. The main guy looks around at all of them and keeps going. "Why don't you come up to us again and do it right?" At this point, I'm looking around at my massive section of tables and getting the distinct feeling that I'm going to be at this table forever. I'm trying not to lose my cool, so I smile. "Sure," I say. I take several steps back and walk up again. "Gentlemen, how you all doing? Ready to order?" The main guy smirks and nods. I look directly at him. "How about you, Chief? What are you having today?" Some of the other guys laugh. He looks angrily at me but orders his burger and a drink. I get everyone's order and hustle off. I return with drinks a little while later. I set everyone's drinks down and do the main guy last. "Here you go, boss." I leave before he can say anything. Through the course of their meal, I call him a different nickname every time. "You need a refill, pal? How's your burger, buddy? Need more ketchup, bro? Can I get that plate out of your way, dude?" Any dessert for you, amigo? Need me to split your check, brother? Make sure to leave me one signed copy, muchacho. So by this time, this guy is boiling. His friends are loving it though. As time has gone on, the rest of them keep looking at me expectantly. What nickname next? Finally, they all get up to leave. Lunch rush has ended and I'm chilling at this point. I casually walk up to them. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. The rest of the group is smiling. I look at the main guy. And you, have a fantastic day, Haas. The rest of the guys cheer. They all head out. I grab all their receipts on the table. Surprise, surprise, the main guy left me 0 for a tip. I didn't care. It was all worth it. So I think the main question here is the friends were looking uncomfortable with what this one friend was doing. Why would none of them stand up and say something? I can tell you for a fact, if I was out with a group of friends and one of them was treating a server this inappropriately, I would call them out on their crap. Nobody deserves that. Thank you to all 3 OPs for posting their stories in the Malicious Compliance subreddit. They are linked in the description down below. Please go check them out. Check out one of these other stories, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories.